Who's first? Ladies. Who's first? Ladies. Who's first? Lady. What time is it? It's time for the ladies. 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 It's the Lady First Chit-Chat crew. It's time for the ladies. 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 It's the Lady First Chit-Chat crew. L-A-D-I-S, I-S, I-S, L-A-D-I-S, and we're up first. L-A-D-I-S, I-S, I-S, L-A-D-I-S, and we're up first. Speak what you want. Be great. Speak what you want. Be great. Speak what you want. Be great. And we're up first. Bonjour, unboxed. Bonjour, unboxed. Bonjour, unboxed. And we're up first. Yes, ladies. That's dope. Yes, ladies. That's dope. Yes, ladies. That's dope. And we're up first. It's time for the ladies. 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 It's the Lady First Chit-Chat crew. It's time for the ladies. 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 It's the Lady First Chit-Chat crew. One time for the ladies in the house. Two time make the people scream and shout. Lachelle, Chandra, Crystal with Nikki. On Boss, Ed, May, and Nikki. L-A-D-I-S, I-S, I-S, L-A-D-I-S, and we're up first. L-A-D-I-S, I-S, I-S, L-A-D-I-S, and we're up first.
I never want that song to end. I would be like, one time for the ladies. Yeah.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Y'all look pretty in y'all's pink. Pretty in pink.
So do y'all. Nikki, what you got on? Every week you're a little sexier and sexier.
Who,
I'm
me?
just saying. Well, there's only two of us, so yeah.
I'm showing the shoulders. So we gotta show our shoulders.
I love it.
Yes.
Love it.
Oh, I hear a baby, Chandra. I hear a baby.
We here. Hold on.
She's like, hold on. We come get you, baby. I'll see you. You take your time. That's right. You take your time. We know you coming. You hear Alex? She said, good morning and welcome to the Ladies First Chit-Chat. That's what she said. Was there a movie called Pretty in Pink? Yes.
Yes. One of my faves. Molly Ringwald.
Molly Ringwald. Yo. Look who's back. Angie Catlett. We ain't seen Angie Catlett.
Angie.
How's you doing? Oh, coming from us from the Richmond, VA. You got your pink on? Yeah, we do look pretty in pink today, y'all. Look at Maya, pink as eye. All right.
Okay, don't be a hater.
We're going to have to wrap that Crimson and Cream next week. Is that what it is?
Let's do
Girl,
that.
we wear anything well.
We do. We wear it all well.
Crimson cream all day, every day. But
I love it.
So well.
What's up, ladies? How are you?
Well, how are you?
I'm great. Hold on, let's bring in our Shani Shine.
Please.
Oh
yes.
Yes. You've been good and wild, honey.
Wow. Look, I had to bring us up close. Look, yes.
Let mommy mode right this moment.
She's back with a baby blanket in her lap.
I didn't even see that.
Oh, I didn't see
I
it.
see all things. Yes, yes. You are fab.
Mommy's of today because I didn't look like that.
You didn't look like that? The mommies are today.
No, I didn't
Coffee.
look like that. I was struggling.
I
I was struggling while I was pregnant, after I was pregnant, and years after that. I thought I was pulling it together, but I didn't look like Chandra.
Neither did I.
Nobody
Cheers to
did.
the freaking weekend, okay?
It's a freaking weekend.
What is that, Chandra?
I love you so much, man.
Blonde coffee.
Oh, it's a
But
coffee. I thought it was gonna be like, I don't know, some health drink.
No, she
Some
Concoction.
sea moss.
it's
sea
coffee
moss
and we had a
and-
shot in it.
Like Shani said, this is the second child. Coffee.
Yeah, coffee.
However, today is baby girl. Well, yesterday was baby girl's 3 months. She's 3 months birthday. Oh my God, can't believe it. So now it's time to start getting it together. Give myself 3 months to sit around and sit in it.
Yeah.
Now it's time to.
I can't
Now
wait
it's
to
time to
see it.
show
Now it's time to get fit with Nick.
Show her what she made of.
Now it's time to get fit with Nick. Real tears.
I know. My poor son.
How my good girls today? Where my good girls? I'm a good girl stand up. How my good girls
I
doing
was
today?
actually feeling pretty bad today.
Uh,
Yeah, I was getting my coffee and some of my good music came on and I started blasting it.
oh,
Yeah,
I know what your good music is like,
this
honey.
thing didn't do nothing for me.
That is not. Listen, I know Nikki on Boss. Her music, when she says my music, that is not good girl music. Honey. I know that.
That is turn over, toot the booty up.
That's right.
It started with Lizzo and it just brought back memories. And then after that, it was one after the other. I was in there really partying by myself.
I love it.
Yes, I love it. It's funny how I remember the first time I was playing a song and I played the edit version, and Nikki said, "What a cuss words?" I was like, she said, "Is that the key version?"
This is not a vibe right here. This is not a vibe.
I always get surprised when they realize like the music I like.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really get surprised.
That's the point of our show. The good girl
Yeah.
versus the bad girl.
Yeah.
It's funny, like we always say, we talk on Thursdays, and
That's
how it
closet
all.
inner Nikki.
What'd you say? What'd you say?
That's a closet inner Nikki, which goes with the show, I guess.
And we were talking, how do you dismantle the good girl? And first, I'm sitting here like, well, what is a good girl?
Right.
What is a good girl?
Someone, I think in society, a good girl is someone who is playing by all the societal rules that are wrapped around womanhood and being feminine, right? Being dainty, being poised, not being ratchet or wild or aggressive or ambitious, but really being polite and soft.
That's interesting that you included ambitious in there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think that ambitious women in general are overall seen as a good girl.
You're right. Yeah, I've been given many names. Yeah.
Yeah. And it wasn't good girl. She's a good girl.
No.
She over there was in trouble breaking down doors.
Yeah.
Honey. Getting the folks called on you.
Yeah, no. Do you consider yourself a good girl?
Hell to the no. To the no. No way. I think Black women specifically have a generational good girl persona that has been instilled and passed down through generations. And that's just to be able to be accepted, to get through doors, to, it's that what is it called when you code switch? It's the code switching effect, that has been passed down to us through generations. When you go into this room, you need to act like this so that they can let you get to the next door, and then you can show your face, or not, because you have to do the same cycle to get to the next level and the next level. So I think Black women specifically have a engraved generational passed down thing that we don't even know is a thing. It's just that's what we do. You know what I mean?
Or to be accepted, like you said, to fit in, to move ahead. That's how we're taught.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think that persona holds us hostage? Let's hold people hostage.
Yes. Other people don't play by the same rules.
No. So we play.
Actually, with that, I mean, I would say it took many years for me too. So yes, I do consider myself, or have considered myself, a good girl. I think this conversation will challenge that thinking. But I have considered myself a good girl, because just as I've been taught to live a certain way and execute a certain way, I have been doing it. But then, there's an inner part of me, and not even inner, like even externally, that I like some of the boldness, not so in the lines, things that I see others do. Because I embrace the fact that I feel in some ways, in some cases, they're embracing more of who they really are and just owning it. And so over the years, I think I've adopted certain things like that. I mean, one of the most immediate things would be like work, right? For the longest, because I've always worked in a male-dominated field, I was taught, well, at the beginning, not only did you have to wear suits, but, women had to wear skirt suits. Right. And then after that, I moved to at least pantsuits, but it was always very conservative. And then all of a sudden, I saw women who didn't look like us showing up that were in, titled positions. Right. And one in particular, she embraced every bit of being feminine. And yes, people had a lot to say, but as she surrounded herself with the right things, they had the talk, the chatter around her became less and less. So what I have been taught in terms of how to be was challenged at that time. And I will say that I immediately switched. So when I show up, I'm not showing up in suits. I'm not showing up actually in any way very conservative. I'm showing up in what makes me feel good. And sometimes could be pretty sexy, but it makes me feel good. It's not inappropriate, right? I don't have everything hanging out, but it might be a little bit more than somebody else would do, which includes, like, a lot of people have issues with open toe shoes and stuff like that. I'm not saying necessarily I do that or do it all the time, but now for me, there is no boundary as long as I feel good, because it allows me to show up a lot stronger in my presence in whatever it is I'm doing. But it's taken time to go back to what Chandra said, because it's the way I was taught. And for many years, that's kind of what worked until it wasn't working for me.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. And Nikki, you saying a lot of, touching on a few different pieces made me think about where I always start, which is childhood, right? It is the messages that I was taught in childhood. Some of them were professional, because my mother was an executive when I was very young in a male-dominated field and in entertainment. And I mirrored, I didn't realize I was taking all of that in, but I mirrored her in my professional journey as well, because I never saw her go to work without makeup or looking like she was going to work. She would never, no, this is no indication to anybody else. My mother never wore scarves on her head outside of the house, right? Scarves outside of the house were like, scarves are inside the house. Outside of the house, it wasn't that she would wear a scarf. It wasn't fashionable to her, right? She did have her nails done all the time. Like, the way that you show up outside of the house, is a certain way. And then there were, so that's one thing. Say my grandmother, heavy influence was 1,000%, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, right? So she was, churched, where there was, we couldn't wear we couldn't wear pants to choir rehearsal. So you had to wear your jean skirt, which is what we were talking about earlier this week.
Your jean skirt and your sneakers.
Your sneakers.
Your sneakers and your jean skirt best go all the way down to the floor.
You know what I mean? It's definitely below the knee. But there were certain messages based on what she thought was ladylike, appropriate. This is how we do it in this house. You get in your own house, you do what you want, that kind of, those messages, the things that so I definitely, I grew into, womanhood or teenagehood or whatever, feeling like I wasn't a rebellious teenager. I wasn't a rebellious kid. I wasn't a thrill seeker. I wasn't I'm not, I'm risk averse, if you want to say, like, because I was having a good time. So I was like, if I'm having a good time with my cousins, with my friends, fully clothed, I don't need to, I never felt like I needed to show a lot of cleavage or have a real, I went through a period of wearing mini skirts because it was the thing. It was mini skirts. And I was first thinking like, your legs are too big, you're too tall, you're too whatever to wear mini skirt. And then I found, because of the messaging, I found things that were within what I thought was appropriate within the style, right? So, a size 2 girl might be able to wear shorter than me, but mine was still the style. You see what I'm saying? So I think I felt absolutely like good girl, and I still feel like, I don't feel like fun fact, I'm not a cliff jumper. You know what I'm saying? I'm not I don't care what people think. I do care how I show up, and when what I'm perceived at when I walked in the door. It's not leading the choice, but it might be like, wow, that's a little low for my cleavage, or you know what I'm saying? I do care. So when people say I don't care what people think, that's bullshit to me. Excuse the church folks, but whatever. I don't care that I care about I do care what people think. You know what I'm saying? So maybe that's not anybody else's story, but that's my story. That said, work stuff, I just had a big work event. I cared what I had on. And what I wanted to look like was fly, like myself, sexy, and covered, because I was at work, right? So
you didn't say good girl.
I didn't. Yeah, but I was saying, because the things that I mentioned were authentic to me, and if I'm covered, then I'm not. So covered meaning maybe cleavage, or so my shoulder being out is not the same as my bust being out at a work event, right? I also feel, I know I'm going on long, but look, I'm also a married woman, right? So the kinds of choices that I make for my fashion, our beauty is here as well, right? So I'm not covering up my face or my hair, whatever, but I don't necessarily enjoy my breasts being on display for other men to see. That I feel like that's more for my husband. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah. So that said, I think that there's always these like messages of either, what you were taught, what you saw, and how you put yourself into what, if it is good. I don't know if I think about it outwardly, but I'm like, not good girl per se, but like, should you put that on, or should you say that? Like, now I just want to say this, Nikki, when you talked about the boardroom and the office, what I found, and I probably didn't find it until my 40s, is if when I walk in, my authenticity as knowing that Crystal's walking in is what I got. Like, I don't know about open toe shoes and pantyhose and all that other stuff being good girl, but the good, if you see me and I walk in and I'm funny and I'm late and I'm like, hey girl, I'm sorry I'm late. That's kind of how I am. And if that's not, if being late is not a good girl thing, be like, that's it. Well, I might be a little late, and it has nothing to do with my character being good. But like if I'm late, and I think good girl to me kind of starts feeling like, let's talk about this, sexualized looking or overly, you know, it starts feeling like sexualized things. That's what I think I equate good girl, bad girl stuff. And I hate the word bad, by the way. It starts feeling like, are we talking about good as it relates to how sexualized you look, which is why you mentioned about your cleavage last week, Nikki, Kimbrough. You mentioned that on the show, right? You're like, Miss Patty ain't watching, right? So I think my good girl thing starts to go into like body parts, not necessarily.
There's so many aspects of good girl, right?
Yes,
but my trigger is usually body parts,
physical.
And I'm gonna tell you, just listening to you, I was gonna wait, but I'll just tell you, like, the older I'm getting, I mean, like, I don't want my stuff just hanging out there. I mean, I am of age. But at the same token, I embrace the fact now that.
What age is that?
Get her.
What age? I don't understand that term.
Huh?
What is of age? I don't even know what that means.
Yeah,
Shut up, Johnny.
I'm assuming that's the appropriate way to say I'm over 50. Like, I'm 52, going on 53. Like, I am
Shelly.
I'm living.
Get her.
Exactly.
Get her.
I'm living. And at this point in my life, I think that the things that I've been conditioned to do, just adding a little bit of something, it's interesting. Some of the things you talked about, maybe you wouldn't do. I mean, I'm not going to put it all out there, but it makes me feel better, right? So it's interesting.
I'll say this: my notion of not playing into the good girl or have to blank came when I first moved to New York, because I was auditioning and I first of all, I walk into a room 5'10.5" tall with flat. Okay, so anytime I come into a room, someone's gonna look at me regardless. I'm gonna pull attention. And so I remember when I first came to New York and I was auditioning, a particular casting agent took to me, and he just felt like it was his responsibility to tell me what and how I should or should not. And that just rubbed me the wrong way. And so when I first got a job here in New York, this same casting director was like, you can't go into rehearsals looking bummy. Like, no rehearsal clothes. You always have to look like you're going to another audition. So they can, he gave me all these things. And I think the reason why, one, he was a white man, 2 strikes. Then I was just just in my early 20s. So I was just like, obviously I'm trying to break into the industry, so it's like, should I listen to him? He's been here forever, blah, 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 and all this stuff. But I took it as like, no, this is when part of the time that I started like saying, like, how am I going to show up as me all the time and not have any type of shift from hearsay, they say, that other person said, because there is a way that, especially in our industry, that Black women have to, Black people, but Black women are supposed to show up every time. And it is 100% this good girl, come in, sit with your legs crossed, don't speak unless you're spoken to, you know, type of thing. And I am definitely like, I ain't gonna cuss y'all, but I'm cuss word, nah. Get get the cuss word out of my face with that. You know, because I just don't understand you know, why other people feel like it's their place to make you feel like you have to be in said good girl
role,
you know, position always.
But
Other
let me ask
people
you a
don't
question,
even
Shawnee,
realize it.
just in the audition space. If women, I just want to come back to like, you know, short skirts, bosom showing, that kind of stuff. Like if women show up with a lot of cleavage, are they seen as okay or inappropriate?
I mean, it depends. It depends because our industry is acting, you know, some auditions you want to come with a more sexy appeal or, you know, shorter skirts or something of that nature, but 9 times out of 10 they just want to see you, and then they can costume you in whatever they're going to costume you in once you're hired.
right.
But I don't think it that's what I had to pull back because it fucks with your mind, excuse my language, but it messes with you when you are already in the field of pretend, and you are pretending to be all these different people all the time, and so you're showing up looking like this, you're showing up looking like that, showing up looking, you have to put on this persona for this, you have to put on that persona for this, you have in the audition scene, you have to be you and show you, and that's what people forget, and that's what shows up more than they wore a low cutting thing
or
you know,
sweatpants if you
or
can, like,
sweatpants.
right.
And so once I found out who I was and what I wanted to show up in every audition, I came as me, and that's how I dress. Is I don't go anywhere looking bummy. You know what I'm saying? I wear 4-inch heels everywhere I go. Not anymore since 2 kids, but you know, before. And that's I'm walking into the room almost 6 fucking feet.
I want to input, since we're talking about that, I want to put out with Carrie. She had a question. She said, and yet others shouldn't care or judge others for what they wear. If they weren't judging you, what would you wear? Like, would that's a basic.
Well, let me tell you, the wearing clothes thing and the good girl thing barely lands on me because I didn't have anything to show growing up. This was me. Nothing, right? And so
can I see you one more time?
That was me. Let me turn to the sides. Let me let you see the angles. That was me. And there were messages that were like, my grandmother was a seamstress, right? She pretty much made all the clothes my mother and Auntie Bev wore their whole life, and impeccably, right? So there was a thing about your clothes. I got messaging about your clothes need to look well presented. Like my grandmother ironed everything. I ironed nothing. But because it was too much ironing, and I did it all, I gave all my ironing time in the beginning of my life, and it's over. But it was more about how you were behaving.
It's mine.
Right? It wasn't about what you were wearing. Yes, you don't want to go out here looking like you homeless. So that was an overall message, right? Because you're not homeless. Don't go out here in these streets and embarrass us, okay? But that was minimal compared to how you're behaving, right? My grandmother, I remember one time I was standing on the corner with my grandmother and my cousin Dave. We are 4 months apart, so we were raised like siblings. And a car, we were waiting for the light to change, and a car was going by at a light with some popping song probably Dougie Fresh. I don't even know. Something popping. And I just did a little this. My grandmother was like, "Bop!" I was like, what just happened? You don't show your tail in the street. Show my tail. Twerking wasn't even a thing. I wasn't twerking. I was just a little, hey, that's my jam. It was a no for her, right? It was also like how you behave in school, right? You don't get into fights. You don't talk back to teachers. It was all of this stuff, right? And let me tell you, I was one of 3 Black students in my elementary school. There was a lot of talking back to teachers I could have done. Let's just say that. But I didn't, right? I just swallowed it all to be the good girl that I was taught to be. And a large part of it, I realized from my family, and probably things I don't even know about my family's history, right? Because we all don't have the goods with our family history. But a lot of it was about my safety, right? Not getting hurt, not getting attacked, not getting in trouble, not getting suspended. It was like keeping you on this road that they want you on, right? Because that's the safest place for you to be, and it represents the family well. So it was really less about the clothing and more about the behavior. But when I think about it overall, my God, that's so much stuff to carry. You got to make sure you know, if you were taller, there were certain things you shouldn't wear. If you were bustier, there were certain things. My generation, when I was a young woman, we wore Doc Martens and overalls. So there was nothing about the woman's body. For us, it was all baggy. We were dressing like TLC. You know what I'm saying? Everything was hanging off. The showing the body wasn't a thing, but it was the behaving, right? Leaving with a guy from a party, or moving around a room and you in crowds with different dudes. It was all of that stuff. And it was like, you know, judging, we still are, but the judgment around the choices you make to get to know someone or to want to go have sex with somebody, right? It's like, we're humans, like we're supposed to have sex. That's why humans come here. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and I think that, you know, we know men don't get that. And I think that women, and someone said this about women, feminine energy being the most powerful. I saw that come up on the screen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think that the good girl persona is about containing that powerful energy, where other people with penises can be comfortable, not feel inferior to the power that is naturally bestowed upon feminine energy.
Shelly, I love when you say that. And mine was a mixture. Mine was a lot of the behavior as well. I remember my grandma Rosa, may she rest in peace, miss her, love her to pieces. I remember the messaging being little in church when I was in the Bernice Swan Children's Choir, sitting down.
Not you and Miss Tisdale's niece.
Bernice Swan Children's Choir, honey. And when you sit down, good girls cross their ankles.
Oh.
Good girls cross their ankles. I remember this to this day. I would tell you this story. I feel like I told Crystal the story. Good girls cross your ankles. They don't cross their legs. They cross their ankles. And one day, I had my ankles crossed, and the youth choir girls and grandma was just so happened to be in the pulpit that day doing something. Because she was the first deacon in the church. She was a deaconess, and she was the first deacon. Okay, anyway. So then
making boundaries.
My legs, because I wanted to be like the big girls. And she did like this. And I was like,
You ain't even get it. You were like,
and so then I went and crossed my ankles again. And then all of a sudden I was like,
oh, what happened to you after?
And she looked at me, she said, she mouthed to me, girls. And I don't know what she said. All I saw was good girls. Good girls. And I remember going back and crossing my ankles. And for years, I didn't cross my legs.
In the can that scene be in the movie? That scene has to be in the movie.
Let me tell you something that is so connected to what you're saying, Nikki. Even though I was like this growing up, the one thing I always had was thighs. Crossing anything was painful for me. And my grandmother was very similar, right? You cross your legs, you walk down the staircase sideways, like, and I'm like, I wanted to sit like a basketball player.
You wanted to go.
Because while I didn't have the jewels that a man has, the thighs was close. And the crossing was painful. But again, no one was thinking about us as individuals.
And I remember I didn't start crossing my legs until honestly, like senior year in high school. I was kind of like, but my grandmother wasn't even thinking of it like that. She would just say, "You look great," and I cross my legs, But as a kid, good girls cross their ankles. Just thinking about the messaging. But as a result, behaviors. It's so funny. Angie Catlett's on here. She's known me for a very long time. I was a good girl. I told y'all this. I was labeled the good girl, and I was labeled the good girl so much that I told y'all my mom would smile and laugh and call my Aunt Ruth when she would hear me in my room playing us when Lil Kim and them were coming out, and she would hear me listening to it. And I didn't know that they were giggling, but I would listen to that stuff by myself. Like, you see me in my room, and I'm like, but out in public, I was the good girl. I would only do stuff like that in front of close friends like Angie Catlett. And as I got older, it was like I would do what I was supposed to do because everyone thought I was a good girl. Unless I was comfortable with you, I would let down my hair and show up who I am. But I learned as I got older, showing up who I am doesn't mean I'm a bad girl, And I shared with the ladies, y'all, the other day, I would care what people would think. And I would, unfortunately, I'm embarrassed to say this, every time I would code switch because I'm the good girl, and I would code switch to make people feel comfortable, and not just with white people. I would code switch with Black people, of who thought they were of a prominence or upper echelon. I would code switch, and as I started getting older, I started really walking into who I am and being comfortable with who I am. And for a long time, I would never curse on something like this, even though that's what I would feel. I would hold back. But baby, let me tell you something. Let me tell you when I really, and it's sad, but it's liberating freedom at the same time. 2 years ago, as we started this show, and unfortunately, when everything was happening with George Floyd, I shared this with y'all. And when Chandra Prophet started writing those shirts and saying, "I'm unapologetically great at everything I do. I'm unapologetically great." And when we had what's his name on? What's our boy's name?
Daniel Watts.
Watts' son. Daniel Watts came on, and he started talking, and I started thinking about how I was part of the problem because I was too busy trying to be a good girl. I wasn't voicing how I really felt. I wasn't showing up how I really felt. And it was at that moment when Chandra was putting those shirts on, and I was like, I'm unapologetically great at everything I do. This is what I stand for. And if you're not down with it, then F you. Don't come rock with me. You ain't rocking with Nick. And it was that 2 years ago, I can honestly say was the first time I started showing up as who I am. Whether it's good girl, bad girl, anything, it was me. It was me. I started getting, and I'm at a place in my life. If you don't like it, fuck you.
Did y'all see that? I purposely put on this t-shirt.
What's it say? What's it say?
Unapologetically me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I want to say is too, this is why we gotta have forums like this and friends like this. As a result of her making these shirts and us talking about this stuff, I finally felt liberated and free to look at myself in the mirror and say, this is what I believe. This is who I am. Because I feel like this doesn't mean I'm a good girl or a bad girl. I'm Nikki Kimbrough. And if you don't like it, oh well. That's how I feel.
Can I tell you something?
Mm-hmm.
So I was almost naturally a good girl. I did all the things that they wanted good girls to do, right? Keisha, I'm calling her out. She was certainly not repping the good girl tribe. She was out in the streets. Keisha was out in them streets, honey, in every way. She was out in them clubs. She was out on them protesting streets. Keisha was out there. I could be found on the couch sitting between my parents watching TV. And that's what I actually enjoyed. They didn't have to tell me to do it. That's what I did. I was very much a homebody for years and still am in some ways. But let me tell you where that became a problem. So because I almost naturally fell into the good girl space, because of, like Crystal said, I'm showing up as who I am, right? And so for her, like, not so much cleavage is who she is. For me, not going out was who I was. Well, let me tell you where that became a problem. Sex. I took the persona that people wanted that I pretty much naturally fell into the bedroom. Child, didn't serve me very well. I, like Nikki, who had 2 years ago this revelation, right? That she had other pieces of her that she knew was her. And because she was being a good girl and people were accustomed to that, she wasn't speaking on it. I had pieces of me, that sexual pieces of me that I didn't access because it didn't fall into the good girl category. So I wasn't utilizing and experiencing and expressing those parts of me. But honey, once I figured out that I was playing the role, things changed. But what I'm saying is for so long, I mean, this good girl thing really impacts and permeates
every part of your life.
But it's so funny, Shelly, you talk about sex, because I was this good girl. Even the men I would date, and the men, you know, I'm a monogamous dater. So, you know, usually I have sex with who I'm in a serious relationship with. Because I had this good girl status, when I would get intimate with them, they'd be like, Nikki. You know, it was like, for me, it was maybe that was because I was such this good girl. I was like, when the door would shut, you gotta go.
little Kim.
I get it. The same with the music. That's
that saying. Good girl in the streets, freak in the sheet.
Right. But the same with the music. When you close the door, you let it rip with Little Kim. When you close the door and no one else can see you but who was in that room, you let it rip with your sexuality. Girl.
During the pandemic, the beginning of the pandemic, I found myself in the shower, wrist icy. I'm like, why do I know all these words of this little girl?
Yes.
But I used to hear it in the street. I'd be like, but I'm in the shower.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know,
but you know, this is a great conversation because it just brings certain things up again for me. I remember being in high school, and when a lot of the conversations about sex and sexuality are really popping and it's secretive and this and that, and I remember hearing, well, Black girls don't do this. I grew up I went to high school in Queens. So Puerto Rican girls do this. White girls do this, but not that. And I'm just like, and so what we're saying too is a lot of times you hear things, and then wherever you get them from, right? Whether it's friends or, you know, your favorite aunt told you certain things, it's like, oh, well, Black girls don't do that. Or if so, Black girls don't do it, which we all know none of this is true. It's just messages. Right. And then you start thinking, like, does it become part of your persona, whatever that persona is, right? Good girl, or I don't care, or whatever it is. But I remember hearing Puerto Rican girls who was like, okay, so what does being Puerto Rican have to do with, you know what I mean? Now you hear it, you're like, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But it was like the filter that you heard this information from.
Yes.
And then I remember, go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, then I remember, I mean, maybe I heard it from guys that were saying, oh, well, you know, this is what Puerto Rican girls do. And I was like, okay, yeah, but what if you mean Puerto Rican? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't. Is
that off limits?
Like, yeah, like I don't know, you know, but yeah, you start to see how you show up in different areas of your life based on what you heard.
I was just going to, I mean, the whole time I'm listening to us, I'm thinking, God, we should just really get rid of, like, if we could really, truly, and people have challenged us to just get rid of like judgments, opinions, things of that nature, right? But then when we say we want to do that, somehow there's always limits, right? To somehow it always comes up like, ooh, okay, now you're going a little too far. As much as we want to applaud the ability for people to be open and do whatever they want to do and embrace it, limits eventually come in. I don't know if you could really, or how you know, fully challenge the idea to allow people to really show up how they are, because eventually there's going to be like this line that's like, okay, like I was with you until you went to this point.
But that's the thing. Limits are only created because of perception.
Right. So the question is, how do you fully and I mean, I'm not assuming we have an answer, but how do you fully get rid of that? Because all of this, it starts to, it doesn't start, it does. It really shapes who you are and how you show up, and that can be an issue, right? Confidence, you know, your confidence is truly challenged in every aspect of your life, even just you being you, right? Like you're challenged in questioning whether or not you could really be you. So for me, the question is, how do we manage or eliminate the idea of limits? It's almost like it's almost like what people say, if you don't have something good to say, don't say it at all.
But I have two suggestions because I've done this, right? I grew up, me and my sister grew up in the same room. We were 100% two different people. She would lie to my parents about where she was going, and she would tell me the truth. I never judged her. And I just be like, okay, go on. I'm not coming because that wasn't for me, right? I couldn't do it. I would lie to my parents about if I did my homework or if I failed the test. She would never lie about something like that. And I think the way to be non-judgmental is to know, right? Push yourself to your own limits, whatever's comfortable for you, right? She was comfortable being in Bentleys at 15 with a fake ID. I was comfortable being on the couch at 18 with my ID in my wallet. And so, but I didn't judge her and she didn't judge me. And so she went to her limit and I went to mine. But when I think that where we try to set limits on others is we have this concept, and this is what good girl shit is rooted in. We have this concept that other people should perform and express themselves to my level of comfortability.
And that's what I'm challenging, because that's what's limiting.
Right, but I don't have to be, this is how you address this. I don't have to be comfortable with what you're doing. If I'm uncomfortable with what you're doing and you and I are engaged in some sort of connection, situation, experience, relationship, I can move myself away from you when you are needing to express yourself in that way. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I didn't drink.
Well, you just hit it. You can move yourself.
You just move yourself. You don't have to stay side by side in an experience with someone who's testing and moving their own limits if that is not in line with your own comfortability and limits. That's how you don't judge people. And you don't got to diss them, right? I didn't say to Keisha, girl, you bad. I never called Keisha bad. I never said that to her. I'd be like, okay, where you said you going? Okay. Like, I'm going to try to hold that for you because they're going to ask, what's that? What is, let me write that down. They never asked because they always believed her because she was a straight A student. They was checking me because I wasn't straight A. So they never asked. So I didn't have to hold it. But the point is I never said, oh, don't do that. That's bad. I'd be like, okay, I'm scared for you because I wouldn't do it, but okay.
Yeah. The focus I have was more so on, there are things we can't control, and you can't control that the limits are eventually, they seem to arise whether or not we want them. And as much as we say, show up as yourself, it's not that easy all the time, because others may be in control of whatever that next move or destiny is. But I think like the answer of move yourself, remove yourself, put yourself in another situation, which, by the way, is not always easy because sometimes you don't want to move. Sometimes you don't want to remove yourself for other reasons, like everything else is good, but this person, they're going to block your blessings and your ability of being yourself. So,
but that's where entrepreneurship came from. That's where entrepreneurship came from.
Yeah.
Right. Because at one point, everybody was working for somebody.
Yeah.
And then there were things that were great, like the work you were doing. It was your passion and the people you worked with. But that one boss or this rule that you got to be here at this time, it didn't work. And so we moved. You got to move. You got to move.
Yeah.
Because the goal is to be you.
That's it. I think it's when you start to get, I've shared with y'all, this is the first time in my life where I feel 100% authentic, a good 98.5% authentic of who I am. And I'm that little girl in that picture with the halter top with her hand like this, asking questions. And yeah, I didn't have the life experiences, but I feel like her now. And I will show up I show up like her now, even with my little shirt I had on last week. And I wanted to put it on and I felt cute. And all of a sudden I was like, Miss Pet ain't watching, so I ain't gonna hear that's not too much cleavage. But my mom now is like, oh, I thought you looked great. I wasn't even thinking that. But in my head, that's what I was thinking. You know,
that's the part, right? Because we're in somebody else's thoughts, thinking about what they think a good girl is, or a grown lady or a respectable person doesn't wear something like that, and they could be like, I wasn't thinking that at all. I was thinking, wow, she's so cute.
That goes back to
it inspires them, like, man, I wish. Look,
exactly.
I mean, that's how I felt when I told y'all I had stopped wearing shorts, because I thought as I was getting older, I needed to come down a little bit, until I saw 60-year-old LaShawn's with these short, cute romper on. So for my birthday, I didn't wear a dress. I wore a romper. And I said, I'm going to show my legs, because when I was that 3-year-old girl, she would have stuck on them shorts. I want to go to what Carrie said real quick. Carrie says she has a question. It's interesting to look at the life cycle. Very young children are free and do what they want. Then they get taught that only certain parts of them should be shown. Then when we are way older, we go back to saying, doing and wearing what we want. How do we change that middle part, is what she's saying.
Shelly, I'm putting you on the spot right now. Do you remember that comedian? You did a podcast about him one time.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. It's my father's favorite comedian.
Yes. Well, we need to read that poem right now.
Yes.
That is basically in a nutshell, it's called I forget what it's called, Living in Reverse.
Yes.
And it's his whole notion is that what you just said, Carrie. It's like, how can we live the opposite way? Going from being old and decrepit to, in the poem it says an orgasm, because that's how we all work.
That's how we all start. We start from an orgasm.
And in that he chronicles like the life lessons. Like, wouldn't it be great if you could just hurry up and get that other stuff that you feel that we have been societalized about, everything's going to be horrible when you're old and you're in a home and all that kind of stuff, and then get back to childhood where everything is just free and flowing. You don't have to think about anything, and and it just chronicles back down. But that notion is so, like, I look at my child all the time at Callie, and I'm just like, that girl has no holds barred for nothing. Like, she's just as free as free can be. And I challenge myself like every single day to not knock that. Yeah. Even in her, what we were raised to consider disrespect, I'm like trying to figure out how to keep her behind that and still have her know that there's a level of respect that you have for your parents. But I understand you saying no. Like, no, I don't want to do that. No. Child, my mama would have popped me upside the head and kept it pushing, and but like keeping that notion, like that freedom that children have, it's something that is taught. It's something that we all have learned throughout. And I always say this: 99.99999% of our behaviors are taught behavior.
Yep.
So it's like, it's something that we have to relearn.
It's respect. It's respect. It goes back to what Nikki on Boss said, right? How do we get to this place where we're not putting these limits on ourselves or on others? It's respecting who you are, how you feel now in this moment about this situation or this person, what this experience, right? And kids have feelings from day one, right? So when your child says, no, I don't want to do that, right? We've been taught that that's a sign of disrespect. No,
Respect.
that's not a
Yeah.
sign of disrespect. That's them sharing how they feel about themselves and who they are in this moment or situation that we're trying to make them a part of, right? And so I just, there is a way to not be judgmental and be comfortable with who you are and be your version of, like, I'm good, I'm a good girl, not in the sense that we're talking about. I'm
Right.
a good girl because I'm good with me,
Ooh, I'm a good girl because I'm good with me.
That
right?
kind of sums it up.
That's it.
I'm
Yeah,
a good girl because
'cause
I'm
I'm
good
good with
with
me.
me.
I think that's why, I mean, I was looking for pink anyway, but I think that's why I stopped at this t-shirt and I was like, you know what? This is right for today. Unapologetically me. I mean, because that's really what it comes down to is just being good with yourself.
You, yeah,
Yeah. If you can look yourself in the mirror and you're okay,
you're a good girl. You good girl. You good girl, right? That's the way
That's
it's
the
supposed to be, right?
that's the takeaway.
That's the
You
takeaway.
good
It's not
girl.
I'm a good girl. It is I'm good girl. I'm good.
Hold on, right there
yeah,
again. I'm
look
good
yourself in the mirror. And if you ain't question anything about you or
You
what you've
good.
done, you good.
Right? It's like how Jay-Z says, I'm not a businessman. I'm a
I'm a
business man.
businessman.
Right. Right. I'm not a good girl. I'm good girl. Right?
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. As long as you're good.
I need that shirt.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
we
long
need
as you're
that
good
shirt.
with
That's a
yourself.
good shirt.
Cali
Yeah.
Girl Inc. Can you make that happen for the
Yes.
I know
payment?
Cali Girl Inc. That's a good shirt.
I'm not a good girl. I'm good girl.
I'm writing
Yeah.
that down.
Yes, please. But that's what it is. Oh, girls,
I wrote,
we can
I'm
break the
good girl
bed.
'cause I'm good with me. And there was the other one.
I'm
Um,
not a good girl. I'm not a good girl. I'm good girl. Right? Right. You got just good with you.
I
And
love
then it's when you're good with you. This goes back to Nikki on Boss. When you're good with you, you're not trying to set limits on other people.
No,
And you're not judging other people.
no.
Judgments come from insecurities.
Yeah, that's right. It's exactly where they come from.
So when I'm feeling insecure, I'm looking outward because I don't want to face my insecurities and I'm judging everything around me.
That's
Mhm.
right.
I love that.
We be learning up in here, don't we?
We be learning, y'all. Y'all, I just got so excited about and we'll talk about it another day when things come to fruition. But we've been presented with an amazing opportunity and I'm hoping that it will come to fruition and we'll be able to share with you guys about it. But I just got chills thinking about us. This I'm good girl. I'm not a good girl. I'm good girl. I don't know. I just got chills. Talking about hopefully we'll be able to share later with the viewers. But I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a good girl. I'm
I'm
good.
good, girl. I'm good, girl.
And why am I good? Because
Hmm.
I'm good with me.
That's right.
I
That's right.
am good
Good
with
with me.
me. And I just gotta say this for myself. I'm good with me. The way he said this in a long time, Brother Craft. I'm good with me as a result of having good women in my life, as a
Yeah.
result of me surrounding myself with good women that have given me the emotional support that I needed when I didn't have it, in order for me to find and be comfortable with stepping into who I am so I can be good with me. So I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. I do. I'm
And we
not a
thank
good
you.
girl, but I'm a good girl. Hey. I'm telling y'all, when Chandra started talking unapologetic, she started putting them shirts out, and I was like this. I literally would write in the morning the things that she would say. I'm looking
Yeah.
at the journal right now, right there. The one, I got a new one now because I wrote all the pages in that one. But I would say those things, and I would say those things in the morning, and that's when I really started stepping into not being afraid of who I am and not necessarily caring. Now, like Crystal said at first, I do care how I show up. I want to show up in a certain way, but I don't necessarily I'm not gonna code switch and curb myself.
It's for you, not for others.
Not for others.
Yeah.
Someone else.
When you're on your journey to really finding the woman inside of you that you are good with, you attract women who are good for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
it's not a surprise.
It's not a surprise.
Yeah.
No,
It's not a surprise. Well, this was another good show, girls. Anybody want to say anything, Nikki?
no,
Nikki,
Anita,
it was
that
good. Nikki,
To me?
yeah.
Oh, all I'm thinking about is I'm a good girl because I'm good with me. I mean, it's really what's playing in my head right now. I think that's what's playing in my head.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to maintain playing in my head.
There we go.
I love that. Anybody else, Shawnee?
Oh yeah. No, I mean I'm stop. Yeah, this topic always just reiterates the whole notion of showing up unapologetically great in whatever you do and how you do it. And I think the really important piece is that you're doing it for your self satisfaction, not the satisfaction of others.
Yeah.
And when you really switch that notion in your head, oh, you show a fly everywhere and don't care anything about it. And it's your fly, however that computes to you.
It's your fly. It's like what Crystal says. Only I can be Crystal. Only I can walk in the room as Crystal.
Because it resonated when Shelly and Nikki were saying, like, the judgment and discomfort and all that comes from you being insecure with you probably doing that for yourself. Like I do get I may be judging someone with wearing their cleavage out because I never, I feel like insecure doing that or whatever, but that ain't my thing. So go with God, Crispy. You do you.
So you good girl.
Good. Chrissy, you got anything you want to say? You want to wrap up?
Nah, I was thinking about the very same thing. Like your insecurities kind of magnify things that trouble you, right? So I don't necessarily, the things that I'm mindful about myself, I don't recognize. If somebody has too much cleavage, I was like, I didn't notice it because I'm not thinking about them, right? But for me, I'm like, it's a mindfulness. But I think there's a mindfulness about the messages that we talked about, and I think that's good to kind of know where they come from and say, wait a minute, that's not even my message. That was something that was, the person who felt that way, who was raising me. Like we talk about, maybe with your daughter, Nikki, you might say certain things that you taught her, but that might have been your perspective that she doesn't really hold anymore, right?
And she speaks up in it, yeah.
Right. So then I feel like it's about this show is a tool. This show is a tool, even for us as we're living in it, to really like amplify, like, what do I feel unapologetically great about? Because I'm probably the one that would say, like, I don't feel unapologetic, I can't even say it. I don't feel unapologetically great about everything I do. I don't. Y'all do. I'm looking to you. Y'all are my tool. I got some work to do. But the things that I do feel unapologetically great about, I don't have no problem with it, right? I don't have no problem with it. Maybe, perhaps the goal here is to say, Shawnee, how the caveat that you also mentioned is, in everything I do, like whatever it is, right? Because maybe I'm not the best cook, but these green beans are slamming and they're gonna get better. You know what I mean? Like we still
that is the point of it. It's like,
right.
The actor in the actor world, we, and even in any world, now that I'm about to say it out loud, in any world, you have to show up daily, right? Whatever you're doing. And every day you don't have 100%. That's just real. Every day you do not have 100%. However, showing up unapologetically great is I have 50% today, and I'm giving 100% of that 50%.
Of that 50%. That's the end of the show. I'm going back on mute.
Thank you so much for saying that. I do want to hear from Dr. Wooten. Dr. Wooten, what you gonna say?
Sorry, Dr. Wooten.
No. I mean, the only thing for me, the summary here is use your energy to find and deal with your insecurities, because your insecurities, which a lot of them may not have naturally been yours, may have been put on you by the good girl stuff that gets fed to us, right? Over the years of life, young and older, as women. But the energy that you're using to keep yourself in the good girl prison and to shame people who aren't willing to join you in that prison really needs to be used for you to find and address your insecurities and figure out what it is you want to work on and what it is you just want to let go of, so that you can just be good girl, right? That would be my takeaway. This all ties into insecurities, most of which for women were given to us.
Yeah.
Weren't naturally born with, right? So the journey is finding the 7-year-old in the tank top, right? That Nikki talked about. Now, find her, because she came with the right stuff, and she went through the car wash like everybody else and got soaked and polished and all of that stuff. But now we know better, so we can do better.
Yeah, I just want to offer, like, I think a lot of this is really goes back to self-love and respect for yourself. I think it's exploration, continuous exploration of self, and embracing the things that make you feel good, and embracing the things that you can outwardly present how good you are, however that looks. I think we are the first critical parties of ourselves that we need to manage and maintain. And I would challenge all of us to really get further in touch or in tune or responsive, right, to our own self-critical ideas and thoughts. And I'm just as guilty of doing that. I'll talk about my weight all the time. I think that's part of the journey, is not being as critical for yourself and starting with self-love and the freedom to be who you want to be. So I wanted to share that. And I think even when, in as many days, we're not 100%, right? On those days, that's the bigger challenge. And I can honestly say, I know that I do this, where I push myself to be the 100% of my 50% self that day, because it's important that I remember that I'm good, right? And it's the challenge to challenge myself, to prove it to myself that I'm good, right? But it is a daily challenge. But I think the first step starts with yourself.
I love it. I love it. Carrie says, you all are amazing and inspirational. Just once a week with you, I am changing me to be me, and I appreciate you all so much. Oh, we love you,
Carrie.
And I'm doing it with you, Carrie.
You all are.
I'm good, girl, because I'm good with me.
That's right.
Hey, I'm good, girl, because I'm good with me. Thank you, y'all. Once again, Ladies First Chit-Chat crew. Make sure you tune into us. We got two more Saturdays, y'all.
2 Saturdays before we go on break.
And then we go on a break in August. And then we come back flyer and flyers, because we good with us come September. Have a great Saturday, everyone. We love y'all. And we see you next Saturday.
Who's first? Ladies. Who's first? Ladies. Who's first? Ladies. What time is it? It's time for the ladies. 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 It's the Ladies First Chit-Chat crew. It's time for the ladies. 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 It's the Ladies First Chit-Chat crew. L-A-D-I-S, I-S, I-S, L-A-D-I-S, and we're up what you want. Be great. Speak what you want. Be great. Speak what you want. Be great. And we're up first. Bonjour, unboxed. Bonjour, unboxed. Bonjour, unboxed. And we're up first. Yes, ladies. That's dope. Yes, ladies. That's dope. Yes, ladies. That's dope. And we're up first. It's time for the ladies. 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 It's the ladies first Chit-Chat crew. It's time for the ladies. 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 It's the ladies first Chit-Chat crew. One time for the ladies in the house. Two time make the people scream and shout. Lachelle, Chandra, Crystal with Nikki. Unboss, Ed, May, and Nikki. L-A-D-E-I-E-S, L-A-D-E-I-E-S, and we're up first. L-A-D-E-I-E-S, L-A-D-E-I-E-S, and we're up first.
Bye, y'all. See you later.